Today, the 6th chapter. We're beginning to get an understanding of our natural soul / animal soul, unlike the godly soul. It is self-directed, the natural soul, seeking self-fulfillment. It's not even bad. What we learned yesterday is that just like the godly soul is a complete entity of a being, so is the animal soul. It has intellect, it has emotions, it has it has a form of expression of thought, speech, and action. It is leumas is the one word, juxtapose. It is the opposite from the godly soul. And where the godly soul, all of the powers of the soul want to unify and come together. Here they're called crowns of impurity. Each one wants to be a king. So the chesed wants to be king, the gvura wants to be king, one's kindness wants to be king, one's judgment wants to be king, meaning to stand on, to sit on the throne alone. There's no coalescing and coming together. Further, we learned that that what comes from klipa? It's from this negative side, sitra acher, the other side klipa. So you would think it'd be, all the bad stuff. Out there, it says no. Anything that's not towards God, but is of the human condition, its vitality is not surrendered to kedusha, so it's not getting its vitality from kedusha. So the Alter Rebbe, from holiness, that is. So the Alter Rebbe picks up and continues his thought today in the conclusion of this chapter. Well, that being the case, that which doesn't surrender itself to God, but remains separate from God, and that's what is the negative side, that which surrenders, that which is batel in Hebrew terminology, nullified. So it gets directly from God's holiness, vitality. So where does it get its vitality from? How do we understand that? There's no two places. There's only one God. So how do we understand it? That what is this? What's this klipa? This term klipa, sitra acher, klipa meaning the shell that covers over, sitra acher. How do we, is that another force? In other religions, other faiths, there are different forces. Some two forces, the godhood and the Satan. Others are, many forces and many gods as a result, and so on. But here, where there's only one God, so what's the understanding of this? That the klipa. So the Alter Rebbe explains. There's such a thing called pnimius, which is inwardness, and there's chitzonius, outwardness. In other words, from the same person, you can have two different dimensions. From the same God, you have two different dimensions. You have the inwardness of God, what he really wants. And what he really wants is to convey vitality that comes from his inwardness, like pnimius means inwardness. It comes from the repunning face, because when you look at the face of a person, you see the inwardness of the person. And the inwardness is that he wants to convey vitality to that which is nullified to him, connected to him. The metaphor that I give, and the Alter Rebbe doesn't give this metaphor over here, is like a mother who gives food to her children. She's not really giving food, she's giving love. It's in a form of food. Well, God is giving vitality. Just as a mother looks face to face to the child and gives it lovingly, caring. So likewise, the inwardness of God is giving it in such a manner. Now, what does outwardness means? Outward means, chitzonius means it's a means to an end. Now, it's not really what you want to do, but you're doing it in any case. It's a means to an end, right? The metaphor that the Alter Rebbe gives is that when someone who is your enemy, you have to give them a gift. It's a metaphor, so it's about the understanding of the metaphor. Why would you give your enemy a gift? Well, maybe you're in business, and because of business, you have to give them a gift, right? Let's say. It's irrelevant. It's a metaphor. So, do you look the person in the eye when you give them the gift? No, they're an enemy. How could you have an enemy? That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's a metaphor. So you don't look the person in the eyes. Not only that, you don't even place it in front of them. You kind of like backhand it, give it over your shoulder is the terminology that's used over here. That's called chitzonius. That's called outwardness. That's called a means to an end. You're only doing it for some other purpose, but not for as an end in itself. Where's it coming from? The same person. It's coming from the same God, because everything comes from God. So that's the metaphor, right? How do we understand that further in the teachings? Well, tzimtzum, contraction. God contracts on his infinite light that gives in a holy way, contracts upon it in a way that it comes, that there's such a minuscule form of light. God is found in that, but in a way that is now concealed, covered over, and that's klipa. That's the other side. Through the many contractions, tzimtzumim, the light is so diminished that it now becomes in exile, just like the fruit covers over, the peel of the fruit covers over on the nourishing, delicious fruit on the inside. It's kind of trapped. So likewise, the presence of God is in everything, of course. It's trapped though. It's in exile. It's in prison, so to speak. And because of that, this world is mainly a world of klipa, siter acher, despite the fact that everything has a spark of holiness deep down in it, but that's not what the mainstay of this world is. And that's why the ways of the affairs of this world are severe and evil. And that's why the wicked prevail as a result. Amazing idea what the Alter Rebbe says over here. Again, nonetheless, as the Alter Rebbe says in a note, through tzimtzum contraction, the infinite, the Ein Sof of light of God is contracted. It's still there when it goes into the world of Yitzir, of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, and it's still found in there. The Ein Sof pervades the entire world, but in a way that it is in exile, the way that it's trapped, and the force then that is giving the vitality direct to the created thing, and those created things are basically everything in this world, right, is klipa. Now, the Alter Rebbe concludes the chapter, says there's two forms of klipa. There are those things that are two categories, one lower than the other. The lower category is three completely unclean, evil klipas that contain no good at all in them, right? And then there's klipas noiga, which has some good in it. So most of the things that are created in this world are klipas noiga, vegetation, kosher animals, and the like. Now, in conclusion, the Alter Rebbe says that the individual, who most of the things that we do, we're going to get vitality, will be naturally from klipas noiga. How we deal with it, of course, will depend if we're getting it directly from Hashem's holiness. But if, for example, we deal with so the natural state of the animal soul is klipas noiga. However, when we are now confronted with something that we have to think, speak, or do in this world, which basically everything in this world has that form of expression. So if we're dealing with which is naturally klipas noiga, if we elevate the good, so then we've elevated. But if we now engage in that klipas noiga, whether it's eating, whether it's speaking, whatever we speak, or thinking that which we think, we're either elevating or we're degrading. We're not staying on the same level. So either we're bringing it down as a result of thinking, speaking, or acting upon that which is sort of mid-level, or we're elevating it because we're using it for a higher purpose. Okay. And that's it. So what's the chiddush over here? What's the novelty? Is that which is separate from God gets its vitality from God, but from external, a means to an end. There's no multi-forces. There's only one force, God. How does that come about? Through tzimtzum, contraction. That's the novel idea over here. And therefore, the nature of this world is that it's severe and evil, and the wicked prevail. Because the natural habitat of this world is klipa, covering over on the presence of God. Hani says she doesn't understand. What don't you understand? Please tell me. Is that why non-Jews don't like us? Because of this? I don't think so. And I don't think non-Jews don't like us. Some don't. For the most part, they do. Una from Iowa, good morning. Clem from Brisbane, Boker Tov. Or for you must be some evening or something. Leon from Turkey, Shalom. Linda from New York, good morning. Robert from Boston. Lily from Estonia. Franklin, Shalom. Elaine from Georgia, good morning. John is with us from North Carolina. And Robert says Shalom from Long Beach, California. Edith, welcome from the Philippines. Migs, if I remember, also from the Philippines. Franklin, God bless you, from Nigeria. And Jane, Boker Tov to you in Illinois. Okay, we are from Colombia. The two dimensions concept would be interesting to know more about. Two dimensions, the inward-outward, Panemius Chitzonius, that which is directly from holiness, Kedusha, as opposed to that which is Klipa. Well, we're going to discuss more about it. We have another couple chapters on this. All right, folks. Sharing is caring. Many years ago, the Rebbe said, after midnight tonight, he said, to Rabbi Nissim Mendel, if I recall correctly, I don't know the exact words, but something of have a good new year. And so he was surprised. So he quotes from King David, Hashem Yispar B'chsoivamim, that Hashem counts and has an accounting according to the nations of the world. So there is something to the fact that a new year will begin in the Gregorian calendar. And if you make a resolution, that's also not so bad, even though we make resolutions from Rosh Hashanah time, but Jewish people make resolutions all the time. So it's an opportunity. Take the opportunity. All right. So I'm wishing everybody that the forthcoming year should be a great year of divine light in our lives that we should get from the internal aspect of God, the inward aspect, as opposed to from the outward, personally. And through that, collectively, we will be able to inspire others and to bring the whole world, to illuminate a world that 2020 is going to bring good things. Tav Shin Pei is going to bring amazing things of Mashiach now. But we got to do our part. And part of that right now is got to share the Alter Rebbe's teachings. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Klein, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadeshim, wishing you a great day, and we should have a great new year forthcoming, and that we should be able to share the light of Tanya with many people. All the best.